Hey everybody, happy Monday. I hope your week is off to a great start, which is why the first thing I want to talk about is burnout. Now, I know I did an entire series about this like years ago, but I feel like it's different this time. And I think a lot of people, I don't know if anybody else can relate, but on all of my Zoom and Skype calls and even just any kind of work thing that I'm a part of, I haven't taken like real vacation, like gone somewhere fun in over a year and a half because of the pandemic. And I was reading an article just the other day, it came up in my news feed, about how since the pandemic, our work hours have gone up by 10%. I don't know if anybody else out there in other parts of the world would agree. I feel that. More often than not, people are emailing, calling, texting, work-related things late into the evening. People are also working on the weekends and doing things like that normally I wouldn't have to even worry about. And even on the weekends, like this last weekend, I didn't do any, I did some work, I'll be honest. What I would much rather have done is go out on the lake, right? Get Roxy, our new puppy. If you don't know, we adopted a puppy. She's 5 months old. But I would love to have gotten her in her little life jacket and put her on the lake and gotten her used to swimming and played like that. That would have just been a lot more relaxing, a lot more fun, and would have felt like more time off versus feeling like I just am checking things off of my to-do list. Do you know what I mean? Anybody else relate? Now moving into things that are happening in our world. And a lot of people have asked me about my thoughts about the D'Amelio show. Now it's on Hulu. Charlie and Dixie are the two girls' names, and they are, for lack of a better term, like TikTok famous and obviously like social media famous at this point. And they have a show on Hulu about them and how they're dealing with this kind of rise to fame at a very quick pace. And also they're very young. I just always try to keep that in mind that like I'm 37 and sometimes I don't think I realize how, not that I'm saying I'm old, but like how much older that is from 19 until I'm around 19-year-olds. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're children, right? And so in this show, they share these raw moments as a family, especially as the girls, they cry over the pressure that they feel. And they just deal with a lot of hate and trolls online. And I will be honest, I personally, even as an adult, have dealt with my fair share of hate online. And even though I am an adult and I'm able to kind of put it in perspective where I'm like, wow, I think that person's just going through a rough time, because to spend that much energy online spewing hate towards someone else, it says a lot about the person doing it, right? But that doesn't make the things that they've said or the pain that I feel any less real or any less easier to deal with. And there was even this moment in, I think it's the first episode of this docuseries, where Dixie, the older sister, she gets so excited about filming a video with Vogue. And I would be super stoked about that too, right? Oh my God. And it ends with her crying over hateful comments. The parents do their best to comfort them, but we all know sometimes our parents just don't know what to say to stuff like that. And it's really complicated, especially like what I talked about before, like the burnout that we might be experiencing from COVID and the overwhelm we're all feeling, I think is spewing out into social media, because that's the easy way to disseminate frustration and hate and anger when we don't know what to do with all that ick that we feel, right? And so really what I wanted to say is that I try my best to always be helpful, kind, and compassionate online. And I think if we as a community, all of you are super lovely, by the way, I'm not saying any of you aren't, but if I think we all do our best out there to put better, happier, nicer things out into our online communities, I think the better we will all feel, because we're all feeling lately, and I'm hoping we can turn it around. This one is super important, and one that I've been wanting to talk about and just needed a space to get your guys' feedback, because we all know who Simone Biles is. If you don't, look her up. She's amazing. And we all know how courageous she is and how she's been courageous about her mental health this year. So let me catch you up. Simone Biles, Michaela Maroney, Allie Raceman, and Maggie Nichols, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce anybody's names, but they testified in front of Congress about how the FBI, the FBI, turned a blind eye to their former doctor and abuser, Larry Nassar. The FBI turned a blind eye to someone who was sexually abusing The girls went to talk to the FBI and file reports and told them about what was happening, and they didn't do anything. And at least 70 other girls and women were said to have been abused after the FBI had been made aware of these allegations. I was watching this unfold on the news and was just enraged. So frustrating. They speak up and no one does anything. And so these women are speaking out against the U.S. Olympic Committee and the FBI and the U.S. gymnastics officials because they claim that they knew about the abuse long before anything was done about it. And the FBI investigators botched their case against Nassa so badly that he was able to continue abusing girls and women for years until he was finally charged. If you didn't know, he was charged and sentenced to over 175 years in prison. Frankly, that's not long enough, even though I know that's like more than his lifetime. But I'm just so disappointed in our system. And I know a lot of you have told me about your own struggles with the system, because for one thing, when we are going through an abusive situation or we've been assaulted or anything happened to us, right? And we go to tell the police or the FBI or anybody, they make us retell it in detail, which I understand, but there isn't always like a therapist or a trauma specialist would be ideal present to help us work through it, because we all know how talking about these things in detail can be re-traumatizing and it can just be so difficult. I also just want to say I'm so proud of these 4 women and anyone else out there who has come out and bravely spoken about the abuse they sustained, because without your testimonies, people could still be out there harming and hurting people. And I just wanted to highlight these brave women and others in the world doing the same thing for not stopping until justice is served. And also making sure that the system that let us down is held accountable. And now I just want to take a quick minute to share a little bit about our puppy, Roxy, our new dog, because her story is one that's actually kind of cool, and I don't know, I just want to tell you all about her. I know a lot of you have been asking a little bit about her, so I'll make this really quick though. We recently adopted a puppy, Roxy. We think she's a bull terrier mix. We're not really sure. She was a rescue. We heard her story and we just had to go see her. So she was one of only 2 in her litter to survive parvo. And when she was 8 weeks old, she was adopted by another family who kept her for just over a month. They brought her back to the rescue, said that she whined too much, she peed in the house, and she chewed up something. Sometimes I think people just don't take it seriously enough that like this is another being that has feelings and it's just a baby. They also, during her time there, she got ringworm and they didn't treat it, and so she was just neglected in many ways. She was also underweight. Luckily, when they turned her in, this woman Lynn was working at the rescue. And she hated to put her back into she's just a puppy. She didn't want to put her back in with the other dogs. So she decided to take her home herself and kept her for a week, where she put her back up for adoption. And then we found her and were able to meet her and fall in love. But she's coming out of her shell. She's a total goofball, growling and rolling around and just being just a big ball of love. It's just exciting to see her kind of come to her own and feel okay and know that this is her forever home. Okay, let's get back into the news. It's about what's going on with the Wall Street Journal story and podcast around Facebook and Instagram. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you haven't heard about this, there are reports that Facebook and Instagram know just how bad their apps are for our mental health. Now, recent research was conducted by Facebook itself, like an internal research, showing how detrimental Instagram is for many teenagers. We all know how much that comparison factor, especially on Instagram, can upset us, right? I can be working really hard and like, for instance, it was just like 5 years ago, Sean and I were like dead broke, like working our asses off. And I would get on Instagram, and I've actually unfollowed a lot of these accounts, not because of them, because of me, but I would look at people like on vacations in France and Italy and buying $3 million homes and $500 shoes and just crazy stuff. And I was like, why am I failing at life so hard right now? And they're doing so much better, right? That comparison factor, even as an adult, it's difficult for me sometimes to comprehend and to to give myself the space needed to like be where I'm at, be okay with where I'm at, and work on myself and my own process and progress, right? And so if we aren't using social media mindfully, which I need to check in with myself all the time about it, it can be really harmful, because it's hard enough growing up and going to school, and dealing with bullies and trying so hard to fit in. I remember trying so hard to fit in. I mean, now I'm like, Katie, that doesn't even matter. But as a kid, it matters so much. Anyways, the issue of social media and its effects on your mental health are leading many to request that the FDA regulate social media algorithms, specifically Instagrams, because we have the data proving just how dangerous it can be. I'll leave all the links to the articles below so you can read more, but they see the algorithm as the most threatening drug affecting our youth today. And technically, the FDA could regulate this because the FDA can regulate drugs, which are defined very loosely as articles other than food intended to affect the structure or any function of body of man or other animals. So it's pretty open there, I think. I mean, overall, you guys know, I agree social media can harm us if we don't use it properly and be mindful. And we have to talk to our children about it, find out how they're using it, if we're going to allow them to use it, and checking in on that. What do you think? And do you think the onus is on the FDA and our government to regulate these social media platforms? Or do you think it's up to us as users to be more careful about what we let ourselves digest online and what we allow our children to see as well? Let me know, because this is just the beginning of a conversation. It was an interesting thing that popped up in my feed the other day. I would love to answer some of your questions in the next What's Happening video. So if you'd like your question answered, please record yourself on video. On your phone is perfect. Make sure we can see and hear you easily, and keep the questions to 30 seconds or less, and send them to Katie@katiemorton.com. Or if you have any topics in the news that you want me to cover, please let me know in those comments down below and link any articles so I can read up on it. And I will see you next time. Bye.